Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine Petrucci. Our masterclass today is on representational systems, and I find this topic extremely valuable to not only myself, but to other people. This allows you to be a better communicator and to have less misunderstandings, because what you're doing is showing up and listening to the other person's representational system and then mirroring that representational system to create an incredible rapport, intimacy, and a connection that you always want in your relationships. So let's start. Again, our masterclass today is on representational systems. So let's define what representational systems are. We can define a representational system as a way to communicate that a person uses, which includes one of our 5 senses. That could be visual, auditory, kinesthetic, touch or feel, olfactory or smell, and gustatory, taste. These modalities are known as representational systems or rep systems because they are the primary ways we represent, code, store, and give meaning or language to our experiences. The representational systems are often referred to as perception systems or levels of perception with which we perceive the environment. Again, we use those 5 senses to encode the information that we receive from the environment. Again, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. And if you take the first letter of each of those 5 senses, you get VACOG. The sense of touch is usually not treated on its own, but it's associated with feeling or body sensations. And that's how we have a kinesthetic approach or way of encoding our experiences. Let's just look at 5 takeaways here. We use our 5 senses to communicate, and we use those 5 senses in day-to-day language and behavior. We also use it in specific occasions. We use our representational systems, and we generate greater rapport in our conversations using the same representational system as the other person that we're talking to. We're starting with 4 takeaways at the beginning. I have a few more at the end. I'm going to give you a test. And what I would like you to do is to look at, I make important decisions based on. Is it the least descriptive for you, the next best description, and the closest to describing you? do it very, very quickly. Your first instinct is always correct. So our gut feelings a way for you to make important decisions, the way it sounds the best, what it looks best to you, or do you need precise review and study of the issues? Again, 1 to 4, and put those on the lines here that are given to you. The second question is, or statement, is during an argument, I am most likely to be influenced by the person's tone of voice, whether or not I can see the other person's point of view, the logic of the other person's argument, whether or not I'm in touch with the other person's true feelings. Again, number them from 1 to 4 really quickly. Number 3, I most easily communicate what is going on with me by the way I look and dress, the feelings I share, the words I choose, and my tone of voice. Again, number it 1 through 4. 4, it is easiest for me to find the ideal volume and tuning on a stereo system. Select the most intellectually relevant point in an interesting subject. Select the most comfortable furniture, or select rich, attractive color combinations. Again, this is really important because you will be using those numbers at the end of our test so that you can determine which representational system that you have. Finally, rate the following statements. I'm very attuned to the sounds of my surroundings. I'm very adept at making sense of new facts and figures. I'm very sensitive to the way articles of clothing feel on my body. I have a strong response to colors and to the way a room looks. So step 1, you're going to copy your answers from the previous 2 slides to here. So if 1 was here, 2 was visual, 3 was auditory, and 4 was auditory digital, you just copy those numbers in each of those lines for every statement that we just completed. And then you want to add the numbers associated with each number. And there are 5 entries for each letter. So in this example, you're going to put down the number for visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and auditory digital. And you write all of the numbers across for each one of those statements. And then you add them up vertically. And you total them at the bottom in this pink line. And once you get those numbers, you will come up with which representational system that you have. For me, it was auditory digital and auditory because I had the same number, total number, at the bottom of this pink line across horizontally. So I know for me, I have auditory digital. I look at information, facts, and figures, and hearing what a person says, I hear what's in the environment, is really important to me. Now, you may be a visual person who has that visual representational system. You may have a kinesthetic representational system. And it's just so important just to figure out and determine what your representational system is, because, for example, if I'm talking to someone who's a visual learner, so for example, I say in auditory digital language, I looked at the facts and figures of that proposal, and I see that we have to make a few tweaks in certain portions of that proposal. If I'm talking to you and you're a visual person, you will say something like, I see your point of view. We do need to go back and look at all of those numbers and make sure that they are calculated correctly so that we can have the best proposal to give to the client. I would have to go from visual. I would have to go from auditory digital to visual, and I would have to say, I also see your point of view. I can see where you're right. This is where we need to make the numbers stronger, more detailed for our proposal for the client. So I have to switch from my auditory digital to a visual representational system in order to best communicate with the person that I'm talking with. It is so subtle, but so powerful when you can see which representational system that you utilize and listen really carefully to the language the person you're talking to uses, so you can mirror their language, so you can build that rapport, connection, and intimacy, especially if it's a family member, a friend, or a colleague that you really would like to get to know better. So let's break this down a little bit more by each representational system. And we'll start with the visual representational system. And a person who has this type of representational system are the people whose preferences are images, movies, and pictures over anything else. They look at the world as visuals and make the meanings or form experiences by making pictures or movies. And when you're talking to a visual person, they tend to look over your head or slightly tilted to the right. This is because they are making images in their brain while they're talking to you. And these people will understand the drawing or diagram better than anyone else. Take the following example and we'll study it together. Person A says, I'm willing to invest in this idea. I see the big picture of it. And person B responds, imagine what the picture looks like when you have succeeded. Probably it is a movie you're going to produce. In both these people in this example use the same representational system. Again, I see and picture here are visual predicates, and they're both using a visual representational system. So they are, again, mirroring one another. They both have that representational system. So again, they are going to have a closer bond because of the rapport that they're establishing with one another. Let's look at the auditory representational system. People with an auditory tonal preference will tend to Be more aware of subtle changes in the tone of your voice and be more responsive to certain tones of voice. They will perceive and represent sequences and are able to remember directions or instructions more easily. They will be able to learn by listening and asking questions. People with an auditory representational system enjoy discussions and prefer to communicate through spoken language rather than the written word. They talk through problems and like to have someone available to serve as a sounding board for their ideas. And they need to be heard. Very important for caregivers. They need to be heard, seen, and for me to advocate for. And they're easily distracted by noise. Now, let's give you an example of an auditory representational system. Person A says, I'm telling you, my idea sounds great. And person B says, yeah, I can hear the music when your idea comes to life. Both person A and B are using the same representational system. They're using audio predicates in their language. Person A says sounds, and person B says hear. So they are both in rapport. Now let's look at the kinesthetic representational system. People with a kinesthetic preference will tend to speak slower than the general population. Why? Because they need time to get in touch with how they feel about the topic. They're more sensitive to their bodies and their feelings and respond to physical rewards and touching. They learn by doing, moving, or touching. They will dress and groom themselves more for comfort than how they look. They make decisions based on their feelings. Stand closer to other people than those with a visual preference to feel the other person's energy, whereas the person with a visual preference will stand back to see more of the other person and look at their body language. We will now look at an example of a kinesthetic representational system. Person A says, I do feel very well. And person B responds, can you be more specific? What do you sense? Person A is using the word feel, and person B is using the word sense. These people are using the same representational system, and they're using kinesthetic predicates in their language to communicate with one another. This is my favorite auditory digital representational system because I like to have a need to make sense of the world, to figure things out, and to understand things that I don't understand. I talk to myself and carry on conversations with myself in my mind. And often I will say, I remember discussing something with someone when you did not have the conversation. I did, however, do it in my mind. I learn by working things out in my mind. I'm not very spontaneous, as they like to think things through. And they have logic, which plays a key role in the decision process, as do facts and figures. This is one of my main representational systems. So when I'm communicating with another person who has a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic representational system, I need to mirror their language so that I can build rapport with that person. I also memorize steps, procedures, and sequences. All right, let's give some example of an auditory digital representational system. Someone who is processing digitally tends to have an upright posture with a relatively unmoving body. Their head is often tilted to the side as if listening to something, and they will have minimal hand gestures. They may cross their arms when they speak or position a hand to their chin or to the side of their head, almost as if they were listening to a telephone. Someone who is processing auditory digitally will manifest variable rates of speech, pitch, and breathing. Their choice of words will almost be measured and precise. And these are people who will become the wordsmiths of the world. Now let's turn our attention to the gustatory representational system. So the gustatory representational system that a person may have, it breaks down into two parts. It's remembered or it's created. And ask yourself, when you had that crazy mood and discovered two separate kinds of taste and you combined it, did it taste as you experienced it? We're going to give you some examples and read some of the words as examples of a gustatory representational system. Obviously, his taste was comparable with hers. Your taste, you taste as sweet as you look. That is sweet. All examples of a gustatory representational system. The olfactory representational system are events which are smelling experiences, usually accompanied most of the time by a kinesthetic event. The smell of a specific product will give you a specific feeling. So if you're smelling lavender or mint or lemon or orange, they all have a kinesthetic component to it. Let's look at some examples of a gustatory representational system. Imagine you're walking on the street and you smell some barbecue meat. Immediately your thoughts are, I can have a piece. And now we're going to use part of our gustatory representational words. It smells good, great aroma, sour smell. I can smell the victory. I smell fear, sweet, pungent, fresh, stale, putrid, chemical, or burnt. And you can put those information to complete that sentence stem above. I can have a piece of meat that smells good, has a great aroma, and it feels fresh and pungent, and I can't wait to eat it. Let's just briefly look at some words that describe each representational system. Visual words include hazy, obscure, illuminate, film, scan, watch, focus, vision, view, look, show, visible, or survey, just as examples. Auditory representational systems are where you would hear words like hear, listen, talk, harmony, loud, shout, resounding, amplify, whine, moan, hiss, groan, orchestration, sounds like, cry, or silence. Some kinesthetic words are feel, touch, grasp, tight, firm, smooth, rough, tense, hurt, relaxed, tremble, shiver, shake, absorb, grope, stir, and cutting. And some olfactory and gustatory words are taste, flavor, savor, relish, tangy, tinge, odor, and gustatory, smell, scent, whiff, fume, pungent, stink, reek, with a nose for. Again, these are just words that you may hear if a person's using a visual representational system. And you can see things like picture, imagine, observe, take a peek, at a glance, bright, foggy, gigantic, illuminate an aspect, keep an eye on, as examples. Some visual representations a person may say are, can you show me other houses in this area? I need to see more before I can even imagine making a decision. Imagine is the visual word. And show in the first one. I can already see it quite clearly, but I still want to look more closely at some of your offers. Again, the visual word is see, look. I'm not sure if you have shown me everything. I'm still in the dark. Show and dark are the visual words. Let's look at some visual idioms. We keep our eye on the prize. Despite his success, he has both feet on the ground. Every cloud has a silver lining. Let's move on to the auditory representational system and look at some of the words that are used when someone has the auditory representational system as their predominant language system. So quiet, calm, loud, hear, whine, crashing, trampling, call on, sounds like, hoarse, screaming, nagging, roar, shout, whimper, at the top of our lungs. Someone who has an auditory representational system can use expressions such as, tell me more about the product. I already heard many good reports. Tell me and heard are the representational auditory words that are being used. That sounds great. Everyone talks about how amazing your product is. Again, the word is sounds. I'm not satisfied yet with what you have told me so far. You are not the first person to promise me that the product will last forever. Again, the word is told. It's always the same old story. You shout from the rooftops that you're the best, but I'm trying to explain to you that I cannot afford your services. I will need to be clearer to make my voice heard. Again, shout from the rooftops, and they need their voice heard. All of these are auditory words that are used by someone who has an auditory representational system. And let's look at some auditory idioms. This cries out for a new solution. It was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. His idea sounds too vague and needs to be clearer. The relationship simply lacks harmony. Again, harmony, sounds, cries out, and quiet. And here. So if you have an auditory digital representational system, such as myself, these people need to understand why something is important. Instructions must make sense, and everything has to be ordered and logical. They enjoy and need printed details and flowcharts. When you're presenting information to them, they will often take notes and will focus on the details. They will expect and probably have a degree of technical know-how. They may appear dispassionate and calculating in the most positive sense. For me, being a speech-language pathologist, I needed to do testing. I needed to focus on the results of the testing for my clients so that I could put together a detailed speech and language report so I would know what specific areas that I wanted to work on with a specific client. So sometimes, like it mentions here, I may appear dispassionate and calculating. However, I'm doing that in a positive sense because I want to make sense of the information and of the person that I'm talking to. So people with an auditory digital representational system might use words such as logic, reason, understand, think, analyze, know, learn. They have to do due diligence. I'll consider the idea. I'll take it under advisement to sum up and to make sense of. So some expressions that a person with an auditory digital representational system may use are, you provided me with a way to proceed that makes sense, and I would like to have more details. Let's move to the kinesthetic representational system. And these are some words and phrases that you may hear from someone with a kinesthetic representational system. Feel uncomfortable, brokenhearted, gritty, creepy, heart skips a beat, pull some strings, hand in hand, ice runs down my spine, sticky, slimy, soft, rough, cold, fluffy, stiff upper lip, heated argument, butterflies in one's stomach. So a kinesthetic expression used by someone with a kinesthetic representational system include, I need your help on this matter. I don't think I can do it on my own. Again, help and think. I was struck by the presentation. They really put the cards on the table. Again, the word is struck. I don't want to rush into this. I'd rather take it slow, or I may go from the frying pan into the fire. So the kinesthetic expression is take it slow and don't want to rush into something. I have a good feeling about this. The whole problem will sort itself out. Good feeling is the kinesthetic expression. Let's look at some kinesthetic idioms. If we don't deliver results, our credibility will hit rock bottom. She is cold as ice. The mere thought of the conference makes him tremble. Hit rock bottom, cold as ice, and tremble. The memory makes him shiver, and shiver is the kinesthetic word. Why should they carry a burden that we cannot carry ourselves? Carry a burden is the kinesthetic idiom. The pressure is unbearable. And pressure is unbearable is the kinesthetic idiom. Let's look at the olfactory representational system and the words people may use. Turn up one's nose at, have a good nose for, smell, scent, rosy, smoky, earthy, odorless, perfumed, stink, smelly, burnt, odorous, sweet, stench, by a nose. I look beyond one's own nose. Some olfactory idioms include looking beyond your nose is crucial for personal growth. Looking beyond your nose. He knows the car out into the highway looking both ways. Knows the car out. I can't smell out his meaning. Smell out. And don't stick your nose in other people's business. Stick your nose. Finally, we have gustatory representational system words, which include such as juicy, smack, slobber, taste, delicious, nutty, oily, hot, sweet, bitter, sour, hot, cold, salty, soft, delectable, drinkable. Munch, to shoot one's mouth off, savory. Some idioms include, in our 30 days free trial, you can get a taste of all the features our program has to offer. Again, the word is taste of. The last match left a bad taste in the mouth of the players since the team lost against its arch rival. Left a bad taste in the mouth. This is a mouth-watering proposal, mouth-watering. Every man to his taste. Again, taste is the gustatory word for these idioms. The most important thing I hope I have stressed throughout this presentation today is that you want to use the same representational predicate or words in your language as your counterpart does, because it generates instant rapport. And it will help you be more intimate and trustworthy in your relationships with others. So please take away the use of the same representational predicate words that your counterparts are using in their language so you can build that rapport. It's so critical in any communication that we have with others, because sometimes I know for myself, when I'm discussing something with a friend, they're not following my meaning that I'm attempting to express, because they either are not using my representational system, or I need to go back and think of ways that I could be clearer in my communication so I can build rapport with the other person. All right. So how can you break these chains using the representational systems of the people that you talk with? It's so important to use the same language, whether it's with a family member, someone you're caring for, your colleagues, your friends, your relatives. It is a critical tool to use in your toolbox to make communication smoother and to build that rapport and intimacy with the other person, so you can have better relationships with everyone and a more rewarding caregiving journey. Let me ask you, how would things be different if you experienced less stress, could be more present with your family, friends, colleagues, the person you're caring for, that you could stay more centered, be more confident, and create more ease and joy? I really want you to break those chains and do more, be more, and live more, using those representational systems as a way to guide your conversations so that you have more rapport, more intimacy, more trust in the other person, because they're talking like you do. I would like to offer you to learn to manage your mind through self-hypnosis, and by utilizing the representational systems that we discussed today, because I want you to influence your outcome in any circumstance. My next self-hypnosis masterclass will be in April. I moved the date so I could have you in the class. So it will be on April 7th from 8 to 4 Mountain Standard Time. I would love to have you book a free discovery call where you can just let me know your situation, and I can provide you with the best resources and recommendations for your specific situation, and help you in using self-hypnosis and representational systems to help you be the best person that you can be. So please book a 30-minute free discovery call with me now, today, so that I can learn more about you and what I can best offer you at this point in your caregiving journey. These are different ways that you can connect with me, and I hope that you can book a call with me to let me know what's really going on with you, because I understand where you've been and where you are feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and burnt out. I would like to change that for you and give you the support and the guidance that you need to be the best caregiver you can be. So please book a call with me, and I'd love to chat with you and talk to you more about representational systems to help you find out which one your primary representational system is, so that you can be more aware of how others are communicating with you. So thank you so much for coming today for our masterclass on representational systems. Stay tuned for other masterclasses on Wednesday from 12 to 1 Mountain Standard Time. I'm still wondering what to discuss for next week, although I have ideas from you and just from my own experience. Thank you for coming. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you book a call with me now. Thank you.